Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag-and-drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show. I got a nice little funk groove going in, and you brought a chicken.
It wasn't a chicken.
What was that? Tell me what that was.
It was more of a chickadee, maybe. I don't know.
Whippoorwill, whippoorwill, look at me, 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 look at me. How you doing, Andrew?
Ooh, ooh. You too. You too. Oh, my.
I met a guy who was Canadian.
Was he a meta guy?
I met a guy. He was a meta guy. He was Canadian. It was the strangest experience talking to him.
It is strange talking to
Because he
Canadians.
has this voice. Oh, it's really good to see you. He sounds like that. Does that sound familiar? Am I doing it justice? Does that sound like a voice you'd
Doesn't
recognize?
sound like a Canadian. I don't know.
No,
Made me
he's
think
not.
Of
He's,
Never-Ending Story or something.
He's like this hybrid. He's a hybrid meta guy.
He sounds like a troll hunter.
He's got his voice. Oh, it's kind of really good to see you. He sounds like that. Anything? Does that sound familiar at all?
Yes, he's. You know who he sounds like?
Tell me.
Star Wars Episode 2: Attack of the Clones.
Yes!
The cafe guy.
He runs the diner. I swear to you. I had the hardest time taking him seriously. He's a distinguished older gentleman, and he has fantastic round glasses, and he looks like what Harry Potter would grow into if he were also French and Scottish. And he sounds like the diner guy, and I kept wanting to ask him about the darts, the Camino poison darts.
Camino.
And oh, you don't know about them. Oh, it was amazing.
Oh. I'm surprised that I was able to pull that out, though.
I got to tell you, I'm really surprised, or I am incredibly talented as a voice actor. So either one of those things are true, but I probably not both.
Probably not. Surely not.
Do you have any particular follow-up? Anything we need to talk about before we start? Anything about cutlery or kitchen appliances?
Nope, but I've been just because of this new episode, I've been trying to brush up on my Korean.
How's that going?
화장실 요리입니까?
Did you get any answers? Anybody help you with that? Or
No
did
one
you just
here. No one here.
You just left in the corner taking care of business by yourself.
That's right. That's right. It doesn't work well when you're talking to people at a Mexican restaurant.
Well, I am proud of you. You sounded like a tourist, but a good one.
Good.
It's really good. I went to the dentist today.
Okay.
Again.
A lot of dental stories.
I do. I just haven't. But this one is about our show because my the hygienist and assistant who was helping to suction out my mouth while they were hammering and drilling away at it. I say that as if there are like 15 people working on my mouth. There were only 2 in the room. But anyway, she has apparently started listening to the show. So
great.
Hello. And she suggested, she said 2 things. First of all, that I need to introduce the most recent Fantastic Four film to my children without telling them what I think of it first, because she says it's really terrible, but it was really great to see her 11-year-old, speaking of children develop taste, her 11-year-old watched it, who should have been a shoo-in for this movie, and actually was willing to turn it off halfway through, said it was terrible. And the second thing she said, which is apropos of this film, I said, well, this week, we've just finished our Meryl Streep series, and we just we're starting The Host, and she knew of The Host, and she said, Meryl Streep was in that? It made me think of this recent Meryl Streep comedy series, and I think The Host actually may be Meryl Streep's worst film. If you're watching it for Meryl Streep,
right?
It is neither Meryl Streepy or funny.
I don't know. I think she does a great job as the monster, Pete. Really,
she was the motion capture artist.
I really bought it.
She was. She did. She wore the black suit with the ping pong balls. She did the motion capture work. That's right.
Ran around on the floor.
She's part of the Motion Capture Artists Guild. It's her and Andy Serkis, and they do all the movies.
Yeah, they're an amazing pair.
She almost did Gollum, but he got it out from under.
That's right.
I think we should probably tell the people where we're from.
Where are we from?
Hey, this is The Next Reel, everybody. I'm Pete Wright, and over there is Andy Nelson.
Hello. How do you say it in Korean? Korean? I don't remember.
Annyeonghaseyo.
Annyeonghaseyo.
There you go. It's coming back to you.
Okay, yeah.
And we spoil movies and languages. Tonight on the show, we're going to do both. With the first in our new series on the works of Bong Joon-ho with his 2006 monster romp and Meryl Streep film, The Host. Before we get into that, you should learn more about us at thenextreel.com. Subscribe in iTunes or follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Next Reel. And if you've ever taken the easy way out and poured paint or turpentine or, formaldehyde down your kitchen sink, you're probably the kind of person who should also head over to Instagram.com/TheNextReel and play The Next Reel's Instagram, #PonyPrize, #GuessTheMovieChallenge. Andy, how'd our walking ecological disasters do this week?
They did a pretty good job. It was 4 images in before Alexander C. Curran was able to figure out that the images were from the 1965 film Inside Daisy Clover, which not many people seem to have heard of, but it's directed by Robert Mulligan, starring Natalie Wood, Christopher Plummer, Robert Redford in one of his earliest roles, and Ruth Gordon. And so Alexander C. Curran was able to nail it on image 4. So congratulations, Alexander. You're entered to win the 2015 Pony Prize.
We have a blot spot this week.
We sure do.
All right, well, I have it right here. Our good friend, Ben Lott, says, I totally agree. This is referring to Sophie's Choice film from last week. I totally agree that the Stingo stuff did not work for me in Sophie's Choice. This movie was absolutely breathtaking and amazing in the flashback scenes. Unfortunately, the bulk of the film takes place in the present instead. As a first-time viewer, wow. I had 2 big problems with this film, aside from how it focused on Stingo. One, I already knew all about Sophie's Choice, and I'd viewed the scene before. Well, that's on you, Ben. In a way, it was like watching The Sixth Sense, already knowing Bruce Willis was dead. I think that's probably a good comparison. And 2, I've seen A Fish Called Wanda, Soap Dish, French Kiss, etc. a lot. So Kevin Kline yelling and being insane is funny to me, not dramatic. I love him as an actor, but I've seen him in comedies too much now to take him seriously. Your rank, 124 out of 201. My rank, 140 out of 201. Pretty close.
I wonder if that's kind of like the comparison of people saying, I don't like watching Will Ferrell in in serious movies because he's a comedy guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I like seeing actors being versatile.
All right. Well, it takes all kinds of people.
It takes all kinds.
It takes Andy kind of people and that kind of people.
That kind of people.
I think he actually has a great point about the Sophie's Choice, and I think that's really unfortunate. If you've never seen the movie, but you have already seen the scene,
right.
Oh man, that's a curse.
Sad.
I feel bad about that, but I'm glad the movie struck at least part of a chord. As always, thank you to Ben Lott for chiming in.
Absolutely.
All right, Andy, let's do trailers.
Let's do them.
I'm so torn on my trailer this week, Andy.
The thing that I like about your trailer is they really just focus on the bare necessities.
Yep. Yeah, they do that.
Oh, I did that. Did you see that? Did you?
No, you did. No, believe me. Not only did I see it, I saw it coming. You telegraphed it a mile away.
Yeah, but it was so awesome.
We are, of course, talking about Disney's 2016 film, The Jungle Book. This one is, here we're going to have photorealistic CGI animals throwing around as far as I can tell, mostly photorealistic CGI boy. All attempting to look really, really real. It will be a big, giant action film of The Jungle Book, and it's directed by Jon Favreau, and I do like that Jon Favreau so much. Written by Justin Marks, and as you may know, Rudyard Kipling, who, as far as I know, did not collaborate on the screenplay itself. But Justin Marks is a writer of some action cred. He did Street Fighter, The Legend of Chun-Li.
My favorite.
Rewind, a little TV movie. He's on board with Top Gun 2, Shadow of the Colossus, Counterpart, and for TV, and The Jungle Book, among other things. So that's Justin Marks. I don't know. But the cast is, of course, fantastic. Scarlett Johansson, Idris Elba as Shere Khan, Bill Murray as Baloo, Ben Kingsley as Bagheera, Christopher Walken as King Louis. Please, Giancarlo Esposito as Aquila, Lupita Nyong'o as Raksha, MJ Anthony as Gray, and Neil Sethi as Mowgli. I'm going to see it. I'm going to love it, I'm sure, because it's a big spectacle. But I'm really the musical. Music's in my heart. What do you think?
Well, it is the musical, isn't it?
I don't know. There was no evidence that there is any singing.
Not in this, but I thought I heard that it was. They're not adapting Rudyard Kipling's The Jungle Book book into this film. They are adapting the Disney animated film into this movie, which
so
is
you're
really
telling me there's
interesting.
going to be singing in this thing?
Well, that was my understanding. So maybe I'm wrong.
You were setting me up to be disappointed, I feel.
Well, I may be setting you up
Because
this
trailer was scary, dude. Right? I mean, this was an intense thing. Now they're going to make these things sing.
Well, it's an intense story. I mean, if you look at even the animated film, I mean, he's facing the tiger. I mean, Shere Khan is trying to attack him and eat him. I mean, there's some stuff in it.
But it was a cartoon.
Well, I know. I'm saying once it translates into the real world, it can be a lot more frightening. And I think this looks a lot more frightening. I think it looks really interesting. I'm quite excited to see it and to see what Favreau does with it. He's not always my favorite director, but I think this is a really interesting idea for a project. And as much as I love the music in The Jungle Book, the animated version, the pacing of it is really
it's wonky.
It's not an actual character arc sort of film. I mean, he does grow up, I suppose, but it's only because he sees a girl and all of a sudden he gets these twitches and that's it.
And we all know where that is.
Yes, that's right. I believe they defined it well in Bambi as Twitter-pated. Sticking with Disney. Yes. But I don't know. I think that I heard that it is going to be a musical version. I hope so, because I think the music is the strongest part. And if they take that and bring modern storytelling into it, then I think it's going to be quite a sight to see.
Well, I hope so. That would be better if that was a true thing. I'm looking at I feel like I missed something big, but the scene of Baloo floating down the river with Mowgli sitting on his belly whistling Bare Necessities, that was pretty. That warmed my heart.
Yeah,
I'm not kidding.
I mean, according to Wikipedia, it says it's a musical adventure fantasy. So,
oh well, okay, you win. You win this round, Andrew. I'm going to go with the music.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. No, that's true. So this thing...
look, yeah. Here you go. Richard M. Sherman, who wrote songs for Disney's original animated Jungle Book alongside his late brother Robert M. Sherman, will return to write new songs for this film. The Bare Necessities, originally written by Terry Gilkyson, will be included and sung by Bill Murray.
There you go. Okay. Well, that either makes it better or worse. So time will tell. We definitely will be able to tell April 15th, tax day in the U.S., 2016. What's yours?
My trailer is Demolition, Jean-Marc Vallée's new film starring Jake Gyllenhaal, Naomi Watts, Chris Cooper, and a kid named Judah Lewis, who every time I see this trailer, all I can think of is that he is a young Jodie Foster reincarnate, because he looks just like her when she is like in Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore type of period. So it's very interesting. This looks like a really good film. I really, really loved Wild. I thought that was just an amazing journey story. I liked Dallas Buyers Club. I thought it was a strong story with great performances. I've really enjoyed the performances in Vallée's films so far. This looks like Jake Gyllenhaal delivers yet another fantastic performance. And it's basically about an investment banker who's struggling after losing his wife in a tragic car crash. His wife, played by Heather Lind, dies. Chris Cooper is her father. He and Jake Gyllenhaal don't seem to get along very well, although Jake actually works for Chris Cooper, it looks like. And it looks like this one of those films where Jake Gyllenhaal's character, Davis Mitchell, is trying to figure himself out and basically decides to tear his life apart, hence the title, Demolition, and basically disassemble his marriage and reassemble himself from ground up. It looks like a great follow-up to Wild. It looks like another type of story like that, and I'm quite excited to see it. Brian Sipe wrote the screenplay, who hasn't done a whole lot. A few small films that he directed in the early 2000s, A Million Miles and Alpha Male. And then this is his, looks like his big screenplay debut, and then another one, The Choice, coming out next year. It looks really good. It's got everything in it that I want to see, so I'm quite excited for this one.
I think Jake Gyllenhaal is on fire right now.
Hopefully not literally.
Well, maybe he could take it, is all I'm saying.
Because he's that good.
He's that good.
He's been studying with Chuck Norris.
I just, from Nightcrawler, Southpaw, we're seeing Everest this weekend. Plug. We're seeing Everest this weekend. We're going to do a film board this weekend. Yes. So you should be on the lookout for that. To Demolition, I'm going to give it a shot just because of where he is. He looks great. And I think I've said on this show before, I am a big fan of dudes of a certain age trying to figure out where they exist in the world films. This is right up my alley. I think it's going to be one that's going to mean something.
Absolutely.
To me. So yeah, very excited about that. Did you say when it comes out?
It is going to be premiering, or it actually just premiered, I think, last week in Toronto International Film Festival. And right now it looks like the release date is set for April 8th, 2016.
All right, there you go.
There you go.
You know what they used to say about you, Andy Nelson?
What's that?
They'd say, you wouldn't know it, but he was a really smart kid. For example, when he was 2, he'd sit in front of the village store, and everyone walking by would ask him directions. That's how smart he looked.
근데 사망자인데요. 사망을 안 했어요. 나 자꾸 선사를 때리고 이거 나타나
The host, Andy, Bong Joon-ho, is our first one. Bong Joon-ho,
it is.
2006. This was filmed. It was written by Bong Joon-ho and Ha Won-ju and Baek Chul-hyun. And it's a monster movie. It's a monster movie about a monster that comes out of the Han River in Seoul, that goes through Seoul. And it kidnaps a girl. And it's the story of a family that goes on the hunt to rescue her. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot. It shares a lot, I think, in terms of its narrative DNA with Prisoners. Which you might find familiar. How did this hold up to you, Andy? Because last time when we talked about when we teased this last week at the end of the show, we said, we're going to see the host, and you said, I remember not liking this very much. Do you still not like it very much?
I still don't like it very much, Pete.
I'm bummed
really
about
don't.
this. You didn't have fun watching this movie?
No, I am. I appreciate what he's trying to do here. I have a hard time connecting with this family. I really do. I mean, I appreciate the struggle they're going through and everything. There's a line I feel that Bong Joon-ho takes in making this film that I have a hard time with, as far as the balance between kind of the horror and the comedy, and I just can't connect with the comedy, and it makes it hard for me.
Like, what do you mean by that? Like, you can't connect with the comedy? Is it just the comedy surprises you when it comes up, and so it's not very funny?
No, it just always feels out of place. I just don't feel like it feels like such a strange way to take this story and these characters. it's a weird mishmash of like the comedy, like this goofy family of losers facing off with this monster that kidnaps one of them, and it's hard for me to feel like there's a balance between the gravitas of a family actually dealing with this loss of their son or their daughter slash niece slash granddaughter, depending on who it is, and I just have a hard time really getting into it because of that. And then there's also the angle that the film takes where it's like, I mean, it's called The Host here in the U.S. I think in Korea it was just called Monster.
Yeah, that's right.
The host, the whole idea of it is that this monster may be the host to some mystery virus, and so they're trying to catch this family because they think that the son, who was splashed by its blood, has this virus and is going to contaminate everybody. And so he's kind of this host. And so, I don't know. I appreciate what Bong Joon-ho is doing here. I just don't care for it that much.
I do care for it. I had a good time watching this film, and I think, we talked about it last week. This may be the Sophie's Choice effect, that was just a heavy movie, and I was looking forward to something that wasn't quite so heavy. And so this appealed to me. This was a late-night romp. I watched it in exactly the same context that I had watched it the first time it came around. Just late one night, I just pushed play on something random I knew nothing about. It turns out knowing nothing about it served me well, although this film ended up being an incredibly, powerfully popular film in South Korea when it launched, and was I think at the time it's still in Wikipedia reports it the highest grossing South Korean film of all time. I don't think that is true anymore. As far as I know.
No, it's been surpassed by two films in 2014: "Ode to My Father" and "The Admiral: Roaring Currents."
Mm-hmm. So, but still an incredibly popular film in that country, and Bong Joon-ho is an incredibly popular director. So it ended up being a lot of fun. It's a fun late night movie to watch for me. I think the special effects are at times really convincing and at times not so much. But the design of the monster, I think, is clever, if not entirely physically believable. I love the character that they. Well, I don't love it. That may be a little strong. I like the personality that they imbued with this character, and I think they do a pretty good job of sort of anthropomorphizing the beast. Of giving it a little bit of humanity toward the end, so that at the end you kind of feel for it. It becomes a little bit of a struggle, more of a humanist struggle, as you watch this father, trying to come back and reclaim his daughter, who has been kidnapped and swallowed and spit up and swallowed again by this monster. I did very much find it. This can get added right quick to our list of movies. We actually still need to create this list, but the misunderstood monsters and the people who destroyed them list. Yes, here's right. That is very true. This would be one of those monsters. The other thing, I want to talk about the family, though, because I think you're right. The family is, it's a bizarre mix of personalities. It reminded me, actually, of like a Wes Anderson family.
Yeah, that's an interesting comparison.
It's just these like there are no similarities between any of the characters. They're all just really crazy in their own unique way. We have the grandfather and one of the sons, the once was a smart 2-year-old son, is they run a snack shop, and the snack shop just is a 24-hour snack shop, and apparently they live in it, at least in some way, but they certainly sleep in it. To run it 24 hours.
It's right on the riverbank.
And is right on the riverbank, but it's not like it's like a metal shelter. It's big. It's a big metal shelter. And so this particular son was also the father of the young daughter who was kidnapped by the monster. And so that creates kind of a multi-generational kind of bit of interest. His sister is I guess an Olympic archer. Is that what you take it? She's like an Olympic level competitor or
I don't think she's quite Olympic level. She seems like she's somebody who's trying to get to that level, but they kind of hint that she's always like never quite getting there.
Yeah, she's clearly emotionally distressed at some level. Yeah. She's dealing with something that's diagnosable. And then there's the other brother that is he's the guy who sort of made it. He wears a tie, like he's the salary man.
Well, except he's jobless. My understanding with him is that he was once kind of the type of college student who was out there protesting and really kind of one of those gung-ho student leader sorts of guys who's now kind of fallen off his wagon and is just kind of flopping around trying to figure himself out, doing it unemployed. Right.
So the way this family interacts together, it's it's just kind of a crazy relationship. It is not, at least I don't know, and I'll say in my experience, but I don't. It doesn't seem to be wildly strange to see how they interact together. There's a lot of kind of whining and some slapping. That's really characteristic.
I do buy into the family. Like they actually seem like a cohesive unit because of the way that they all interact and the just the ease at which they react to each other. It feels very familial. I think that's something that Joon-ho did really well, is kind of creating that feel with this family, with these actors. They really did feel like a cohesive whole, even if I just didn't like them that much.
Was there one particular family member you didn't like that made it sort of fall apart for you, or was it just general disdain for the family?
I think it's mostly Gang-do. He's the father, and it's just, he's such a buffoon. I really I find him annoying. And
you didn't buy his dad's reason that he was.
No, I guess it's just one of those things where maybe it was a little too late for me by the time that he gives that monologue. About 2/3 of the way through the film.
And what was it that his son didn't have enough protein or something like that at the right age?
Right,
because he was drunk and his son didn't have enough.
He
protein.
Wasn't feeding him well, and his son had to do with whatever that's called, the sonri or whatever, I can't remember, where he would basically, that's what those other little kids were doing, where he would break into places and kind of have to steal food or something, right?
Right.
So I didn't quite, I don't think I fully got exactly what happened to him as a kid, but it just sounded
We meet him as a narcoleptic, right? He just sleeps all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, but here's the case for Gang-do, which is that his transformation, his story arc, is one of, it's one of discovering what it means to become a father again, like a caretaker, an actual kind of protector and caretaker, because he is a child. He's a grown-up child when we meet him. And his relationship with his daughter is one of just fawning sort of codependence. And by the time the film ends, he tries to get her back. It turns out he does get her back, but when he gets her back, she's dead. But she has protected another younger boy, and they saved the boy. And now Gang-do has taken over the responsibility of becoming a caretaker for this boy. And so when we meet him at the end of the film, he's alert, he's got a gun, he's the protector, he's got the symbols of the archetypes of becoming the protector and the father figure, and he's not sleeping. He's alert in otherwise, had this been the beginning of the film, in that context, the snow falling, everybody's at home, he's alone in this thing, he would have been sleeping.
Right.
And here we see him as alert. So that's his transformation.
Right.
You still don't like him?
No, I see that. I think this is one of those things where I understand that this film is liked by a lot of people. It did really well at the box office. It's got great marks all across the board. It's won a bunch of awards. I don't know. There's something about the character that just, for me, I just don't click with him. And I appreciate what Joon-ho is doing with him and the way that he is using him in the story, but I have a hard time I don't know. I just have a hard time connecting with him, I guess. But I do understand, and I do see exactly what you're saying. I see his transformation. I can tell that Joon-ho is doing a good job of putting this film together. I mean, he is a strong director. He knows how to tell a story. He's very assured, I think. But there are definitely things in this film that I do like quite a bit. I think he does a good job with some stuff. But I think, I don't know, maybe it's just scripting issues. I mean, right out of the gate, I think that was my first big stumbling block I had.
What's
the scene with the American doctor telling his Korean counterpart to dump all the chemicals was so badly written. It was such a painful scene to watch.
Why was it badly written?
I understand that it's based off of an actual thing that happened in Korea, but I just feel like the script could have been strengthened. Scott Wilson, who I love, I think he's a fantastic actor, has been in some amazing films and TV shows. I mean, Walking Dead, he's great as Herschel.
Mm-hmm.
I just have a hard time listening to him tell this other guy to dump this stuff, and he knows it's going to go into the Han River. And just, I don't know, the whole attitude and everything just seems like it's written really poorly.
Yeah.
Did you not feel that, or did you think it was written fine?
No,
Am I just crazy?
I don't know. I guess I gave it more credit because I thought visually it was a beautifully shot sequence. I love the way they place the camera in the room and the two shot that they get far away from behind him. And I love when he starts pouring all the formaldehyde down the sink and all the kind of smoke that comes up out of it. I think it was just shot beautifully. And so I kind of wrote it off as the scene that we need to get us into the spirit of this is a man-made monster movie. You know, we have to kind of get into that mentality. This is, oh my gosh, mom made me flush this baby crocodile down the toilet, and now we have a monster movie. This is, oh my gosh, you know, we let the radioactive gorilla loose in the sewers, and now we have Flash's nemesis. It's that kind of spirit, and I gave it, I think, more. I just gave it a pass.
Well, and I think that's what you have to do, because otherwise it's really bad. I mean, it's so bad. I mean, here's how it goes. The doctor: I hate dust more than anything. Oh, I will clean it again. You don't have to clean up now. Why don't you just dump this first? That's formalin. Formaldehyde, to be precise. To be even more precise, dirty formaldehyde. Every bottle is coated with layers of dust. Pour them into the sink. Excuse me? Just empty every bottle to the very last drop. It's just there are toxic chemicals in the regulations state, pour them right down the drain, Mr. Kim. If I pour them in the drain, they'll run into the Han River. That's right. Let's just dump them in the Han River. But you know, this is not just any toxic chemicals. The Han River is very broad, Mr. Kim. Let's try to be broad-minded about this. Anyway, that's an order, so start pouring.
Yeah.
It's terrible dialogue.
Just doesn't feel very natural to you. Is that what you're saying?
Just,
you know, there's another piece of it too, and I recognize that we could talk about this. It's not great, just use of language, but it does set it sets a cultural tone too, and staging it in English, I think, is an important one because it puts this, you know, there are pretty mixed feelings about the large military presence, United States military presence in South Korea. And there are a lot of people, particularly of this generation, kind of of Bong Joon-ho's generation, of our generation, that really believe that this is that we're done. We're done. We need to get the American forces, close down the camps and the bases and move along. And there are a lot that don't agree with that we have the North Korean threat and that we have to have a strong American presence there. But this film is sort of, this sequence is displaying, by this really insipid bit of dialogue, it is displaying that tension between the observed pressure that the Americans have in a negative way on South Korea. And I think that's an important thing to recognize, that as a result of this pressure, we get an incredible man-made monster that is eating people. And I don't think that can be necessarily separated, sort of that cultural statement can be separated from the theme of the film. And that's one of the things I kind of like about it. I like that it's making a rather, obvious political statement in a way that is sort of frivolous and fun too.
I agree with that, and I do feel that yes, you're right. It is very obvious. Like it's pretty much hits you over the head with it. But monster movies, I think there's a little bit of a pass with monster movies where they are able to do that a little more broadly and a little more on the nose and get away with it, just because it's in the spirit of kind of a monster movie, right?
Yeah.
And I think, let's face it, I think that's kind of what most monster movies are doing, especially like these big, giant animal monster movies.
Yes.
Godzilla, any of these type of films is like, man did something dumb, and now there's this giant creature that man has to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I agree with that. I mean, the whole Agent Yellow thing is kind of just, hello, Agent Orange.
Yeah, and isn't that an interesting twist, too, that, we make a statement that is overtly critical of the U.S. presence in South Korea at the beginning of the film, and at the end of the film, we're going to go ahead and make fun of the youth that are protesting that very thing. Right? They sort of lampoon, young activists in the film as well. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. It's interesting because sometimes it's hard to tell exactly. I feel like there's a lot of different angles that Bong Joon-ho is kind of taking with his messaging in the film. Because there's all the stuff about the American government, there's stuff about the Korean government. There are interesting comparisons that he has with the monster and Gang-do as the father, as far as like both of them being pursued by people. This is when everybody's after Gang-do and his family because he is seen as this infected human, and they want to quarantine him and study him. So there's that interesting element where they're kind of comparing those two beings. They're both klutzes. Like there's, right. There's just interesting comparisons there. And then there's some odd comparisons with the monster and the Agent Yellow, notably like when the creature is first seen at the beginning of the film hanging from the underside of the bridge, it has this very interesting teardrop sort of shape as it's just hanging there before it drops into the water. And it looks just like this Agent Yellow canister thing, which I can't for the life of me figure out why it would need to look like that, other than he's just trying to say, hey, look, Agent Yellow equals monster, both equal bad, and both equal man-destroying man sort of thing,
Yeah, so I think that's a fair enough assessment.
Yeah, so I think he's doing all sorts of interesting little messaging and subtextual elements going on in this film, which does make it more interesting. Maybe I'm selling myself on it a little more. I don't know.
As you
Despite
do.
the problems that I have.
I'm certainly not saying that it doesn't have some problems. Obviously, some of the dialogue is a little bit iffy, and some of that might just be, you lost in translation. Writing an English language short sequence that is to portray, the cynicism around the American military presence in South Korea is a difficult thing to do. Maybe when you aren't a native speaker. I don't know. Just saying it.
Yeah, it could be. There were some scenes that were all Korean too that I had.
That also. Okay, I'm trying.
I know. I appreciate that.
Many of the characters in this film I did not know anything about. Song Kang-ho is plays Gang-do, and he has been in a number of things, and we're going to see him again in Snowpiercer in a couple of weeks. He plays the crazy narcoleptic father of the young girl.
I don't know if crazy is the right word. I would say dumb.
Oh, fair enough. He's been in a bunch of stuff, and it's made me kind of interested to go see him again. Now that I know, I remember the connection between who he is here and who he is in Snowpiercer is an interesting. I'm kind of on the lookout to see how he plays that character differently. I don't actually remember him very well in Snowpiercer, or remember his character and performance very well. So I'm interested in that. The other character that we do know pretty well is Doo-na Bae Doo-na, who plays the Archer sister. And she is somebody that we're quite familiar with from Cloud Atlas and Jupiter Ascending. And she's in the fantastic Netflix series Sense8, which, if you haven't seen, you should check out. What did you think of her generally? Did she pull it off?
I mean, yeah. I mean, her character I have less interest in, but I thought she did fine playing kind of the, I don't know, she seemed a little narcoleptic as well. Just kind of her general movement through the film always seems a little sleepy. But I still like her. I think that she does a fine job in it. I am glad to see that she's kind of been doing all these other things like Cloud Atlas and Sense8, because I think that she is a great actress, and I really do enjoy seeing her on screen, even if the sister role wasn't one of my favorites.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. It wasn't one of my favorites either. It was a really snooze of a role. I mean, it was a boring role that they tried to give a hero moment, and it just didn't it didn't really connect for me. At the end of the film, she's an archer, right? And so she gets sort of the final shot, right, when she shoots the flaming arrow at the now gasoline-soaked monster and hits it right in the eye, and it just didn't feel enough to me like a hero moment. She was just kind of a not a great use of the character, I think.
It was one of those things where I felt they could have really worked that differently if they had let her shoot more often but miss.
Yeah.
Because they established that she's an okay archer. I mean, she gets bronze. She's not getting the gold.
But she never missed.
No, she's not missing. But I thought it would have been more interesting if they let her shoot more. And I guess what they do is they establish this thing where she's just kind of slow, and she, the timer goes off before she gets a chance to shoot in her competition. All of that. And so that's maybe why she never gets these shots off. She has chances a couple times and never actually gets to. Like the one time when she's in the sewers and finds the creature, she gets run over by it before she actually gets a chance to get shot off.
Right. Yeah, so. I think that's a really astute point. That would have been much more interesting way to use her.
Yeah. But she'd been in Bong Joon-ho's, I think it was his first film, Barking Dogs Never Bite, back in 2000. And then she had been in some of Park Chan-wook's films, like Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, or maybe it was just that one. I'm not quite sure. But no, I think that she's a great actress in some of the other films. So I'm glad to have seen her in this. And actually, she was in Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance with Song Kang-ho. He was also in that, and he was also in couple of his other films like JSA, Joint Security Area, which I really enjoyed, and Sympathy for Lady Vengeance. So he's been in a few more of Park's films.
Yeah.
Bong Joon-ho is one of those directors who finds actors and likes to kind of keep bringing them back. And Byun Hee-bong was in, I think, Memories of a Murder before this, which was his Bong's second film. Actually, he was also in Barking Dogs Never Bite, so he was in both of them. And I think he's a great actor in this film as the father. Well, the father of the three kids.
Right, of the older kid, the grandfather.
Yeah, right, the grandfather of the kid who gets kidnapped. I really like him quite a bit. I think he's my favorite of everybody in the family, other than maybe the daughter. There's something about his presence on screen that just has, I don't know. I don't know. I guess I could just say more wisdom. He definitely feels that way. You feel like he's a guy who's been around. He knows how to kind of haggle a little more with some of these people and do these deals. And even though he doesn't seem like he's done that much with his life, I mean, here he is, grandfather, and he's running a little snack shop that he's living out of off the Han River. But he's, I don't know, he's got a strong presence regardless.
Yeah, he's an interesting. I just like watching his face move. I think it's funny you mentioned how well he haggles, because I thought some part of what was so funny about his haggling was that he ended up getting taken. Like he ended up getting guns that barely shoot and that crazy truck.
Right.
But
I guess I was thinking of when he gets them out when they're driving away in the truck they got, and he kind of gives the guy the thing of coins and drives off.
That was good. I agree with you. And so there. Yep. Let's see. And the older brother, I didn't recognize anything else he'd been. I hadn't seen anything else that he'd been in.
Is that Park Hae-il?
Hae-il, yeah.
Yeah. No.
War of the Arrows.
But again, Memories of Murder. So he's somebody else who has been in several of Bong Joon-ho's films.
Bong Joon-ho is like the Quentin Tarantino of South Korea.
Well, Quentin Tarantino certainly likes this movie.
Yeah, that's true.
So.
That's funny. You should. That's funny. I should say that. You should say that.
That's right. What did you think of Ko Ah-sung?
That is
the daughter.
The daughter. I thought she was. I thought she was delightful. I really enjoyed her. But I enjoyed her. She's actually. We have seen some others. Obviously, we've seen her in Snowpiercer. I thought she was fantastic. She was one of the most interesting people in this because, she was the captive, and we see her at the bottom of the sewer kind of exerting her cleverness, trying to pretend she's dead, trying to help trying to survive, find something to eat, protect this little boy who gets dropped down there. I thought she was great. Yeah,
I agree. I really enjoy her presence on screen. There's something about her that, I don't know, it's a great presence, and I think she does this role really well. She's very interesting to see on screen. I think she was only 12 at the time.
I think so.
Or 12 or 14.
Yeah.
So I think that she's got a great schoolgirl presence in this film, and but has a strength about her, and it's great to see her trying to find a way to kind of get out of this situation that she's in. And I appreciate that in monster movies, characters die, but boy, did it bother me that she ended up dead.
Tell me why. I was torn on this one. Especially after we'd just seen her grandfather slammed against the concrete.
But that felt like a really justified moment in a monster movie. It's like that character who stands up against this monster to take it on, helping others escape. Like that was a great moment. It felt like one of those deserved moments. Mm-hmm. This was a kid who's kidnapped from it. Everybody is trying so hard to rescue her. It's like watching Aliens and then having Ripley get to the bottom and finding a chest burster coming out of Newt. It's like, I don't know. I understand that Bong Joon-ho is like breaking conventions and stuff, but it just, I don't know. Sometimes
so you didn't feel like it was enough a reward that her last effort as a heroine, right? She gets to play this role as a heroine, and she rescued a weaker, more feeble character so that he could have a good life, and that was a trade-off. We got to see her cleverness so that she could rescue somebody else.
I saw that, but it also, I don't know, it bothered me. It's like, and now Dad's got his replacement child with him. It just, I had a really hard time dealing with the fact that the daughter died. I don't know. I understand, I appreciate he's trying to break convention and do things like that. I just didn't like that decision. So maybe that's just me personally being bitter with him, but
no, and I like hearing you talk through it because I was torn on that too. Because at the end of this film, you want that, like you want to feel that bit of redemption, and at the same time, and I think Bong Joon-ho, what I read into this experience is that we needed her to die so that her father's transformation, her father's kind of change over the course of the film could be complete. We needed him to fully cement as this new character, and maybe some of that is as a result of not being able to be there in time to save his daughter the first time.
Yeah, but I don't know if I buy that the father's transformation would have been complete only by the fact that his daughter was dead.
Yeah, no,
I don't think
I think I'm fishing.
I don't think I buy that.
A little bit.
Yeah, no, I think it's an interesting theory. It's like, I think the father already was showing himself a much different person just by his actions of trying to save his daughter, like doing much more than we ever saw him do early on in the film.
Going through essentially medically authorized torture, which was horrible.
Nothing like a needle in the brain.
It totally. The needle to the brain thing was terrible. And with a needle to the throat, I don't know what they were doing in his neck. That was bad. The screaming and the horribleness. And interesting that it was an American that comes in and makes them stop.
Yeah, that was Paul Lazar.
Yeah.
Who I know best as Silence of the Lambs. The one with the bugs that is he's like the insect guy. He's the bug guy.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. Who knows that it's a death's head moth.
Love those moths.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, nice. Well, good pull. Good pull.
Lee Byung-woo did the music, and I did not like it. I had such a hard time with this music. It was just I don't even know. It was such a non-genre sort of music. It didn't feel connected to the story it was telling, and it just was going off in kind of different tangents. And for me, I don't know. It's just like it didn't do anything for me, I guess.
I honestly, this is a Casablanca film for me. Like for the music, like it is. If I gave it any thought, I probably wouldn't like it, but I didn't really even notice it.
Well,
I can't place it. It's not even in my head. But what is in my head is Kim Hyung-koo, who did the cinematography for this film, and man, I really liked it. I mean, I thought there were moments of genius visually, and it really struck me as just an incredibly powerfully photographic experience in some sequences. He captures depth and height really, really well. Some of the shots in the sewer, the entrance to the sewer in particular, with those vertical columns, just beautiful. He captures width really well, like the just giant expanses of architecture. I think just great. And so I thought it was, and maybe this is again why I think so much of it is I give it more of a pass than you do, because I so enjoyed it visually. I thought it was just the way they moved the camera was fantastic.
I agree. Actually, I agree that the look of it was really great. I enjoyed the look. I enjoyed the feel of it. I enjoyed the vibe of it. I do think that Bong Joon-ho is a very skilled director, and I think that he has a strong team with him. And I think you're right. Kim Hyung-koo's cinematography was very strong. It worked really well, and I do think it was a very smart decision on Bong Joon-ho's part to really just say, hey, I'm making a monster movie and I'm not going to hide it to the end. Right at the beginning of the movie, 15 minutes in, I'm going to give you the monster and you're going to see it all the time throughout the film, daylight, and here it is. I think that's great, and I think that Hyung-koo really shot it really well. I think that it works nicely. I do agree with you that sometimes the effects are horrible with the creature, particularly on Blu-ray. It's super crisp and definitely fake.
Yeah.
But I think they did come up with a really fun creature, and he is really interesting to watch. I read somewhere that it's actually a she. I don't know how anybody tells, but according to them, it's a she. I do like all that, and I think the look is very strong with that. And, strong director, strong cinematographer, telling a story of a very interesting monster.
And I think, even though I wasn't crazy about the hero archer shot from Doo-na Bae, I did like that closing sequence when you have there's this really kind of view of what we normally get as sort of radicalized protesting, but you have them throwing these Molotov cocktails. You have the brother throwing Molotov cocktail after Molotov cocktail at the beast, and kind of, hurting it with this fire, and it's kind of slow motion as the camera is tracking alongside the action. And I thought it was just beautiful. I love the shots of the fire. I love the way they kind of captured these bottles flying through the air. I thought generally the rescue was done really nice, where Doo-na Bae is climbing up into the bridge scaffolding. There's this neat shot where she's kind of peeking her head out of a trap door, against this bright orange scaffolding that I thought was just really great. The death of the father the grandfather is a fantastic sequence where he and his son are kind of walking parallel to one another through the grass and the rain, and it's just this beautiful throwback to some really classic Asian cinema. I just felt like it visually, it really captures a lot of sort of hints of great Asian camera work, and I loved it. I thought it was really great. I don't need to go on and on and on, but I thought it was really great. The one scene that I thought was super, super special for me is when they were all exhausted, and after the loss of the daughter, and they all went back to the snack hut and sat around the table eating snacks, and they're all in silence, and then the daughter kind of comes up from under the table, and they all start feeding her, even though she's been kidnapped. She's gone, but we have this vision of her, and it's this, to me, it's just beautiful sentiment where they're all clearly thinking about her and imagining, kind of sharing the delusion of what it would look like if she were really here right now. And I thought that was a really special moment, and it was just done completely wordlessly. It was great.
Yeah, I marked that down as a very interesting scene. I was torn between it being kind of just strangely weird, and just kind of out of place, or being really brilliant. I was a little torn on it. But I did like it. It was one of those moments that definitely stood out for me as like, wow, that's an interesting, like this, I wrote down right next to it, very assured director. Like,
yeah, he's
not afraid to put a scene in like that feels a little more experimental almost.
Right.
It's this inner state scene as you're kind of looking at kind of reflections of the family internally, almost like remembering the joy of sitting around the table as a family, including the young daughter.
Yes.
And so it was very interesting. Yeah.
All right. That's all I had to talk about.
Well, I've got a few more things. What was one of the things that I also kind of struggled with was and again, I don't think he was going for just kind of standard screenplay style and everything, but it just was a weird structure for me, the way that the story bounced from character. Like, you didn't have Gong-doo as your protagonist. I mean, he is the protagonist of the film, but you lose him periodically as he's going through these medical tests. And then there's a period where the brother and sister are separated, and both Nam-il and Nam-ju are doing their own thing. And so you follow Nam-il for a little while as he's trying to track down the cell phone signal. And then you follow Nam-ju as she's trying to, get this, after she gets this text from her brother. And then at one point, you jump completely separate to these other two random boys, Sejin and Seju, who are just kind of homeless kids who come close to this family but kind of pass them by. And then you just kind of follow them for a little while until they end up getting kidnapped by the monster. It was kind of a weird structure for me, and I understood by that point that Gong-doo is pretty much our protagonist, but there were just long periods where we just depart from him, which I don't know. For me, it made the storytelling a little clunkier.
I don't think I think I had a little bit. I think I probably gave it more of a pass than you. I do absolutely agree with the two boys. I didn't get that at all. I didn't need that was a distraction for me. But watching the siblings kind of go about their business independently, I thought was okay. I bought that because I feel like they needed to move their part of the story forward, and I felt okay because the narrative didn't diverge, too terribly much.
For me, I guess it would have worked for me better if we had other points where we diverged with them and we saw them at other points.
I guess I'm trying to figure out: are you more? Does it affect you more that we lost our protagonist brother, or that we focused on the other siblings?
Well, if we're gonna have Gong-do as the protagonist, then I feel like we gotta kind of stick with him. Again, I don't mind leaving to go follow other characters. I mean, that's what subplots are,
right?
And they work very effectively in films, but not if they get one scene, right? And that's, I think, my problem. If we're gonna follow Nam-il or Nam-ju, that's great, but let's give us more to them. I mean, we never follow them ever. If we're going to follow Nam-ju, give us a scene. Like, we only see her on TV at the beginning. Let us jump into that scene, and we can actually see it from her perspective as she's, having her struggles or whatever. Let us see something else going on with Nam-il, so we get a little bit more subtext to the subplots, so we have more invested in those characters, not just the one scene.
I absolutely see your point. It didn't bug me, I think, as much as it bugged you, but I do see your point.
Another thing that bugged me, or at least I just don't understand, and maybe you can explain it to me, why doesn't Agent Yellow affect them? All these other people are like bleeding out of their ears and other orifices of their face, except for this family who is able to kind of stand up and fight the monster, surrounded by Agent Yellow smoke.
No, it did affect them, and you can see at the end they all have blood coming out of their ears and nose. And
are you sure?
Yeah.
I swear I was looking and I didn't see anyone else bleeding.
Yes.
Huh. Okay. The last thing that I want to say, bone shower.
Okay, so describe the sequence, please.
I love the monster. I think that it's just a really clever monster design, and I love the bone shower. It's so unexpected.
So the bone shower is what?
Basically, the monster, we see it 15 minutes of the film as it gets out of the river and basically tears through just the park, all the park along the Han River, just eating people and crushing people and grabbing people and it's just it's kind of the free for all, and it kills at least 30 people, and it obviously eats some. We just don't see much of that, and we don't see it ever evacuating. We don't see any waste of it. But at this one point, when in this kind of this sewer pit that the daughter Hyun-so is in, it comes up to the edge, and she thinks it's going to vomit out another person, because that's what it seems to do. Is it swallows a person, brings it back to this pit, and dumps it in the pit so that it can then eat it later. Instead of dumping a person out, it's a skull, and then it follows that skull up by just vomiting every bone from every person that it had eaten. And it's just like pile and pile of just bones, bones, bones. It was crazy. And then it ends with the beer can, which I thought was great. I'm assuming it was the beer can that Gong-do threw at it at the very beginning into the river. Yeah. So
yeah, that was my connection there too. I agree with you. I thought it was a great touch, and I really I enjoyed that sequence a lot. Probably more than I should have. I kept just wondering, I mean, she's lucky. She is so lucky she got out of the way. Bone shower.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
I thought it was funny. They have, I was looking into the effects. The team, the orphanage, did the effects for the creature. And they had this face control window to kind of manipulate the monster's face. And it has things like angry, and for its eye, different controls for its eye. Angry, look back, surprised, squint, extra wrinkles for squint, surprised pain, all these different expressions for the eye. And I'll tell you, I mean,
I don't even know where the eyes are.
Yeah, it's like I other than when it's like sleeping there and the girl is gonna jump over it to try to escape. and you're just kind of staring at its eye. For the life of me, I was like, I know its eyes are on there somewhere, but I can't tell where they are. And it's moving so stinking fast. It's like, even if it was, that's the extra squinty eye. It's like, I would never be able to tell.
I thought at one point that it had eyes actually in its mouth, and it may, but there are also eyes that obviously one that she shot with an arrow. It's a very complex thing. I actually took a still of the monster with its mouth open at the end just to be able to see its parts. And I'm looking at it not moving, and it's kind of hard to get a bead on it.
It's kind of got like a predator sort of mouth. It's got
like
multiple flaps and folds. It's almost Georgia O'Keeffe would love it.
Nice. Yeah, it's predator crossed with a kind of a crocodile. Crossed with, the spirit of the deep American Southwest. You really put your finger on it. It's a regular Toni Morrison.
Yes, there you go.
All right. So it was a reasonably popular film.
It was a very popular film. This was an interesting, like you said, it was an interesting release. I don't know if people in Korea kind of expected it to do as well as it did, but this film just went nutso, and I think it had the record for the most people to see it opening weekend. I mean, just like it broke all sorts of records. It ended up making, it cost what I found $12 million to make, which in today's dollars, it wasn't that long ago. It's about $13.9 million. Domestically, here in the States, when it was released in 2007, it only made $2.2 million, not a ton of money. But internationally, it grossed $90.4 million, which is about $105 million adjusted. So it did pretty well for itself. I mean, it's not the Avengers or anything, but it's still, for a South Korean film, it's done better than any other American film that's played there. So it ended up making adjusted per finished minute about $790,000.
Not a bad play for a monster comes out of the Han River movie.
Not bad.
Subgenre of monsters in sewers and other dark places. I think it's time for us to rank it.
Let's do it.
Head over to flickchart.com/thenextreel. Sign up for an account if you don't have one already, and then line them up. You can find all the movies that we've done, all 200 some odd, and you can see how this movie stacks up against your list of great Meryl Streep comedies. See what I did there? I did it again. I brought it back because repetition is the soul of comedy.
That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I keep forgetting that there was another The Host movie that came out a few years ago.
Yes, it was the Stephanie Meyer's book, right?
That Andrew Niccol directed.
Yes.
What was he thinking directing that?
No, that was the one. I think that I couldn't figure out which was the one with they were in the giant column and it had the mirrors and things. It was The Host. I think that was the one.
I think that's what we figured out was correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Whole brain trust. The whole brain trust to figure that out.
Why was everybody involved in that? Why? Anyway, all right, let's add this.
Do it.
The Host or Kind Hearts and Coronets.
Kind Hearts and Coronets.
I agree with you there. The Host or The Adventures of Baron Munchausen. I'm going to go with Munchausen.
Really?
Yes.
You hate joy.
I don't hate joy. I just enjoyed more of Munchausen. Is there a doctor in the fish?
I don't know if I want to go to the mat on this one. I prefer The Host, but I know what happens if we say Munchausen. It just falls straight to the bottom.
I will give you The Host. How's that?
All right. Well,
I don't want to go to the mat on this one. I don't want to go to the mat on this one either. I wasn't going to fight that. It's all right. The Host or La Vie en Rose?
Wow. I would honestly, I'm going to say La Vie en Rose. But I would probably put on The Host first.
Okay. Well,
so I could be swayed either way on this one.
Well, I'll say La Vie en Rose.
All right.
The Host or the Poseidon Adventure?
Oh, the Poseidon Adventure.
Poseidon Adventure.
which I think inarguably would have been made better if it had a crazy Korean sea monster in it. But I'm still going to give it to the Poseidon Adventure.
I think that was what was that other one? Deep Rising, or what was that?
Yeah. I thought you were going to say, what's his name? He was in it.
Oh, he was. That was.
He was in it. If I remembered his name, that joke would have been better.
You're right. It would have been Marty. What's his name?
That was Marty.
All right, the host or the illusionist?
The illusionist.
Definitely the illusionist. The host or compulsion? I'm going to say compulsion.
Oh, compulsion, yeah.
The host or taxi driver? I am going to say taxi driver, Pete.
I'll give you taxi driver.
Wow.
Shh. Just click it and move on.
The host or the Sandlot?
The host.
Sandlot.
The host. The host.
The Sandlot.
The host.
The
The
Sandlot.
host.
Travesuras en el parque.
Nobody knows what you're saying.
All
right, fine.
We're
You're
gonna
gonna
have
have
to
it.
do
No,
this?
you're gonna have it,
Okay.
Sandlot.
All right.
Nah.
All right. 152 out of 202.
I had a good time watching this movie. That's my message. If you haven't seen it, you should see it. You probably haven't gotten this far. If you have
then-
seen it, I hope you agree with me.
So then what's your star rating on it out of 5?
Oh,
For
it's a 3.
Letterboxd?
It's a 3-star.
Okay. You know, I will say for Letterboxd, when I first watched this, I gave it 1 star. This time watching it, I gave it 2 stars, Pete.
Oh, there you go.
So, see?
You're softening in the right direction.
Maybe if I keep watching it,
Just keep watching the
moving
host.
up. Pretty soon it'll be 5 stars.
That's right. It was a fair enough film, and I am actually okay with it being at 2.5 stars.
All right.
All right. So now we've gotten this one out of the way. Where do we go from here?
We are going to next talk about Mother. Now, I have never seen Mother. Have you seen Mother?
I've never seen Mother.
A mother desperately searches for the killer who framed her son for a girl's horrific murder. Sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah. Sounds like somebody needs some therapy. Maybe this is therapy. That's what this is. This is Mother issues. Looking
Yes,
forward
yes,
to
yes.
it. So that's coming up next week. And this is kind of a short series of Bong Joon-ho. We're doing this, and then we've got Snowpiercer, and that's the one I'm really looking forward to. So Mother is just, basically tiding me over.
Yeah, I mean, Bong Joon-ho is a director who now has I believe his 13th film is just starting pre-production. That's including some shorts. His films, Barking Dogs Never Bite and Memories of a Murder, came before this one. Then The Host, and then Mother and Snowpiercer. So, of the 13 credits he has as director, there's quite a few shorts, and then one. It's one of those anthology films. He did a short in one segment in one of those. So,
well, this is good. This is where we're coming from next week, and until then, I gotta go to bed.
all right, I am going to go doze off like a sick rooster.
I had heard good things about this movie some years ago, so my ... That's the title of this review from Richard Kaplan, R.C. Day.
Okay, all right.
So I'd heard good things about this movie some years ago, so my son and I watched it. At the end, we looked at each other wondering why. Why did we just waste 2 hours of our lives watching something so incredibly awful? Then after watching Snowpiercer by the same director, which we loved, I watched this again to see if maybe I'd missed something, but no, the movie was still terrible. Were we supposed to like the father of the girl who gets captured? He's an idiot. A father who falls asleep at his father's business and then feeds beer to his 10-year-old daughter? Is this Korean humor? Then the sister who misses a gold medal in archery because she takes too long shooting an arrow. Is this a story of a family of misfits who come together to defeat the monster? If it is, I didn't get it. Terrible movie.
See,
Yeah.
Hearing that, I'm like, I agree with everything you're saying. Preach it, brother. Drop it in a star now.
It's yours.
But not like Danny Treadway, who gave it 1 star and said, "Foreign subtitles made me not finish it." As if the subtitles are the thing that actually made you not finish it.
Boy, they really, I'm sorry about that.
Yes, I think Leon said it best when he commented on Danny's post here and said, "That's because you can't read." Oh dear, oh dear. Yes, just stay away from these movies, Danny.
Subtitle fight. Amazon. It is hard to believe we have been having in-depth conversations about movies since 2011.
You are telling me. Producing this show week after week requires a ton of work behind the scenes. If you'd like to help support our efforts, one easy way is by using our originals page when shopping for books and movies that we've covered.
Just visit thenextreel.com/originals. Your purchases made through our links give us a small commission at no extra cost to you and allow us to keep having these great discussions.
Season 5 had some great adaptations, like our Meryl Streep Oscar-nominated performances series. We covered adaptations like Kramer vs. Kramer, Sophie's Choice, and The French Lieutenant's Woman.
It's a real Sophie's Choice between those books. You see what I did there?
Yeah. And I don't think it's quite at the level of a real Sophie's Choice.
We also did Snowpiercer for our Bong Joon-ho series, adapted from the French graphic novel Le Transpersonnage. Man, I love that movie.
We had our 2-part 1939 series that included adaptations like Gone with the Wind, Ninotchka, The Women, and The Hound of the Baskervilles.
A number of those 1939 movies, like Goodbye, Mr. Chips, also tied into our recent 1940 Academy Award Best Picture nominee series.
Our naughty children horror series had creepy adaptations like The Bad Seed, Village of the Damned, The Innocents, and Children of the Corn.
For our Hayao Miyazaki series, we talked about his take on Lupin III with The Castle of Cagliostro, plus his own The Wind Rises.
Some great listener choice picks too, Viridiana and The Great Escape.
And for our David Mamet Wright series, The Verdict, The Untouchables, and Glengarry Glen Ross.
Plus, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang from our Shane Black series, adapted from Brett Halliday's novel, Bodies Are Where You Find Them.
Dive into the sources for all of these at thenextreel.com/originals.
Every book you buy helps support the show. Check out thenextreel.com/originals today and find your next read.